Hi again. Walter Rauschenbusch, page 388 of Christianity and the Social Crisis, the last chapter, What to Do. This subhead is Solidarity and Communism. It is assumed as almost self-evident in popular thought that communism is impracticable and inefficient, an antiquated method of the past, or a dream of utopian schemers, a system of society sure to impede economic development and to fetter individual liberty and initiative. Keep in mind this is 1907, he's saying this before the rise of Soviet communism, or the success of Soviet communism. Thus we flout what was the earliest basis of civilization for the immense majority of mankind, and the moral ideal of Christendom during the greater part of its history. Communistic ownership and management of the fundamental means of production was the rule in primitive society, and large remnants of it have survived to our day. For 15 centuries and more, it was the common consent of Christendom that private property was due to sin, and that the ideal life involved fraternal sharing. The idea underlying the monastic life was that men left the sinful world and established an ideal community, and communism was an essential feature of every monastic establishment. The progressive heretical movements in the Middle Ages are also usually involved in an attempt to get closer to the communistic ideal. It's a striking proof how deeply the ideas of the Church have always been affected by the current secular thought that our modern individualism has been able to wipe this immemorial Christian social ideal out of the mind of the modern Church almost completely. The assumption that communistic ownership was a hindrance to progress deserves very critical scrutiny. It is part of that method of writing history which exalted the doings of kings and slighted the life of the people. For the grasping arm of the strong, communistic institutions were indeed a most objectionable hindrance. But to the common man they were the strongest bulwark of his independence and vigor. Within the shelter of the old-fashioned village community, which constituted a social unit for military protection, economic production, morality, and religion, the individual could enjoy his life with some fearlessness. The peasant who stood alone was at the mercy of his lord. Primitive village communism was not freely abandoned as an inefficient system, but was broken up by the covetousness of the strong and selfish members of the community, and by the encroachments of the upper classes, who wrested the common pasture and forest and game from the peasant communities. Its disappearance nearly everywhere marked a decline in the prosperity and moral vigor of the peasantry, and was felt by them to be a calamity and a step in their enslavement. But we need not go back into history to get a juster verdict on the practicability and usefulness of communism. We have the material right among us. Ask any moral teacher who is scouting communism and glorifying individualism what social institutions today are most important for the moral education of mankind and most beneficent in their influence on human happiness, and he will probably reply promptly, the home, the school, and the church. But these three are communistic institutions. The home is the source of most of our happiness and goodness, and in the home we live communistically. Each member of the family has some private property, clothes, letters, pictures, toys, but the rooms and the furniture, in the main, are common to all, and if one member needs the private property of another, there is ready sharing. The income of the members is more or less turned into a common fund. Food is prepared and eaten in common. The larger family undertakings are planned in common. The housewife is the manager of a successful communistic colony, and it is perhaps not accidental that our women, who move thus within a fraternal organization, are the chief stays of our Christianity. Similarly, our public schools are supported on a purely communistic basis. Those who have no children, or whose children are grown up, are nevertheless taxed for the education of the children of the community. The desks, the books, to some extent, the flowers and decorations are common property, and it is the aim of the teachers to develop the communistic spirit in the children, though they may not call it by that name. Our churches, too, are voluntary communisms. A number of people get together, have a common building, common seats, common hymn books and Bibles, support a pastor in common, and worship, learn, work, and play in common. They are so little individualistic that they fairly urge others to come in and use their property. Private pews and similar encroachments of private property within this communistic institution are now generally condemned as contrary to the spirit of the Church, while every new step to widen the communistic serviceableness of the churches is greeted with a glow of enthusiasm. Thus, the three great institutions on which we mainly depend to train the young to a moral life and to make us all good, wise, and happy are essentially communistic, and their success and efficiency depend on the continued mastery of the spirit of solidarity and brotherhood within them. It is nothing short of funny to hear the very men who ceaselessly glorify the home, the school, and the church turn around and abuse communism. More on that next time. I'll put in a link to Martin Hengel's discussion of property and equality in ancient Israel. See you soon.